All right, let's go main slate. We'll start off with the Broncos and the Jets. Jets favored by about a touchdown at home. The total is in the 38 range, so this is an ugly one. I actually have a couple guys here in this one, though. Tyler Beatty, a guy who I expect to see an uptick in workload. He's looked like the best Bronco back really since the preseason that I've been watching. And Sean Payton has hinted that he agrees and he's going to get Beatty more work in the game this week. It kind of happened last week as well. It was more toward the end, but he did carry 9 times for 70, and that's more production than this Bronco backfield has had all year combined, really. They haven't been able to even crack 3 yards of carry with any other back out there. So I like him. He's pretty much min price for a running back. And then kind of a post-hype guy, because I think people were looking at him last week a little bit. But Greg Dulcich, his route rate went way down last week, but he was a little banged up, and they were in just a crazy positive game script from the jump. I think they took the coin toss, took the ball first, scored, and it was just kind of, they were never really pushed by the Buccaneers. So I think they took the opportunity to give Dulcich some time off, but he could easily jump back to his, 50, 60, 70% route rate. And he was getting a lot of targets on those as well. So against the Jets, you're probably going to need a pass catcher, and it's going to be harder for the wide receivers who they've been relying on a lot. So I'm looking to buy back on Dulcich this week as well. But Beatty is the guy that really jumps out to me in this one. All right, next we got the Bengals coming off that Monday night loss to the Commanders to drop to 0-3. They now go to Carolina, another game people probably think they should win, but who knows? They're about 4-point favorites on the road, but pretty high total for a Panthers game, around 48. Who do you like in Panthers-Bengals?
Going with the cheap tight end here in Tommy Tremble at 2,700. Tremble missed week 1 due to injury, and then in his week 2 season debut, he split time with rookie Jatavian Sanders. And last week, he operated as a clear lead tight end, ran a route on 77% of Dalton's dropbacks, caught 3 balls for 29 yards, but this entire passing offense gets an upgrade with Dalton. So if Tremble continues with this underlying usage, he could pop at certain times, especially now that Adam Thielen's also out for at least 4 games now that he's on IR. Those could be targets that go Tremble's way. So he's a guy that I doubt anybody's going to be targeting this week. But at 2,700 and the potential of catching, 3, 4, maybe even 5 balls here this week against the Bengals, I think he's definitely worth a flyer.
Yeah, I think I looked it up, and he played 64 total snaps, which means you don't even worry in, any like the different type of game script that he necessarily gets taken off the field. I mean, if you play 64 snaps, you could just play. So that was good to see from him coming back. And yeah, I like that. That's sneaky. Next up, we got the Eagles at the Bucks. Eagles a short favorite on the road. The total around 45. I'm going to go with rookie wide receiver Jalen McMillan in this one. He is under 4K and has averaged an 84% route rate this season. The Eagles are the 4th worst team at defending wide receivers and giving up fantasy production. And 2 of his 3 catches this year have gone for 20 plus. One of them has gone for a touchdown. So McMillan's kind of been quiet outside of a couple of splash plays this year, which will happen when Chris Godwin's just going off like that. But the fact that they gave him the number 3 job over Palmer from the jump, and he was just 80-20 split, and it doesn't seem to be turning around at all, means they do like him and they do want to see him continue to develop long term. So this is a pretty good matchup for it. So I like McMillan there under 4K. Next up, we got the Rams going to Chicago to face the Bears and Caleb Williams. We saw a little shake up in the Bear backfield last week. Who do you like?
Yeah, last week I tried to attack one of DeAndre Swift's backups. I went with Khalil Herbert. He's still the goal line back. He's still getting, the goal line snaps and things like that. I thought that might be a sneaky way to invest in DeAndre Swift's backups. But it was Roschon Johnson who ended up being the top back. I like him as a dart throw this week. He's 4,100. he could end up being the more productive back, just given he is kind of handling more of the passing down work. And I was thinking, just when it comes to this Bears offense, with the offensive line being such a concern, they might consider just dump offs to the running back being an extension of the running game. DeAndre Swift has been running behind great offensive lines his entire career in Detroit, Philadelphia. So I don't even know if it's fault. I think it's really the offensive line that's an issue. So Roschon, like that, I was kind of confused. They brought in DeAndre Swift because Herbert and Roschon are two very good backs. I'm going to ride the hot hand here. I think Roschon might be, not highly owned, but a lot of people are going to be taking him at 4,100 just after last week. But I think it makes sense here. I think there's a chance that he paces the backfield again. This is a very volatile situation, but I think given the fact that he is handling the passing down work, I think he has like the best role in this backfield to kind of produce, at least in the short term.
Yeah, I was somebody who kind of looked at this in week one and said, okay, I bet the under on Khalil Herbert's carries, and that I think it was like 8.5, and quickly realized that they really view him as only a goal line back. They don't look at him as a guy that could contribute a ton in the pass game, almost like a Deontay Foreman kind of type, I think. And if that's the case, then it's got to be Roschon if it's not Swift, because Homer is still out, and Velus Jones, it looks like they're just healthy scratching it. It looks like they gave up on that experiment. So, I think there's, to your point, there's probably more issues. It's not even just the line, probably the scheme itself, because they had that play where they didn't even have, like, Williams. He didn't have a check to get out of it, or they left the huddle with too little time or whatever it was. But it was dead in the water on like a 4th down near the goal line. Swift ended up running backwards, but it's not really his fault. It was just a poorly schemed play against a certain front they expected. So I think you're just seeing a lot of that. And it's when you use your backs with those tendencies, it's kind of weird because I feel like defenses kind of know what's coming, but maybe that's why you don't want to use Herbert. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm very skeptical of this run game for now, but I agree. I think Roschon is trending up because Swift hasn't been able to do much with with the opportunities. Saints Falcons divisional matchup in Atlanta. Falcons favored by about a point. The total is around 42, and I am rolling with Ray McLeod here. He's 3,700 in the full slate. 100% route participation in each of the last 2 games. So we expected them to be a 1-1 personnel team, with 1 tight end and 3 receivers on the field all times. But in week 1, they actually came out with some heavy sets. So McLeod only had about 67% route rate or something like that. But the next 2 games after that, he was on the field every single Kirk Cousins drop back. And if that's the case, he has 5-6 catch games in his range of outcomes, because we know Cousins is fairly efficient. It's an indoor game, and this Saints team has been giving up a lot of production to wherever Lattimore doesn't line up, and especially into the slot. You have Alontae Taylor there. He's top 6 in most production allowed from the slot this season. So a lot of reasons to like McLeod this week. I think, a lot of attention goes to a guy like Mooney, who's already done it in this league and been like a number 1 receiver, but McLeod running the same amount of routes as Mooney and Drake London. So I like him as the cheapest option. And next we got the Jaguars at Houston. I guess if you take a Jaguar, you got to be careful because they never have they. Oh no, they finally broke that streak last year, right? I think they won on a field goal last year, so maybe the Jags will finally get it together. But who do you like in this one? The total's around 45.
Yeah, this is a tough game because there's really no true dart throws in this game. It's very top heavy. So if Evan Ingram's ruled out again, I think Brenton Strange would be the top dart throw. I believe you mentioned him last week. He's 3,100.
Yeah.
Caught 2 passes for 12 yards and a touchdown against the Bills, but he's really operating in the Evan Ingram role. I guess the other option would be, I don't know how this Texans backfield is going to shake out with, Mixon, Dameon Pierce are questionable. So maybe like Cam Akers would pop again. But as you've mentioned, you kind of want to throw against the Jaguars, so that I'm not too interested in the Texans backfield right now, especially just given how, murky it is. So I think, like if Evan Ingram's ruled out, I think you got to have some shares of Brenton Strange at 3,100 here.
Our guy, I like Strange. I actually think he has some talent. I think he could be a decent receiving tight end pass catcher in this league. I've liked what I've seen out of him, but I was gonna say our boy British Brooks on the Texans got a carry in garbage time, I think, last week.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on with this one?
Yeah.
But I think it is, as of right now, it looks like they're trending toward missing, but you never know, so you got to stay updated on that. But Eckler would be a value if they did. Eckler. Akers would be a value if they were out, at least until he starts being super inefficient and it just slows down. But we've seen Dobbins have a couple good games, so it can happen. Akers himself has popped at times. All right, let's move on to the Packers and the Vikings. Packers a favorite, but under 3. Vikings on the road here. Total is 43.5. I'm going to go with Emmanuel Wilson at 4,400 in the Packer backfield. He outproduced Josh Jacobs last week, and he has been popping on tape. If you watch that first game of the year in Brazil, just when it looked like Jacobs was struggling and the run game was struggling to get going, they put Wilson in there, and he rattles off a bunch of long gains. So he's kind of been showing flashes. Even last year, he was a part of the playoff roster and playoff rotation. Even with Aaron Jones balling out in the playoffs last year, Wilson did get a carry and a touch here and there in that backfield rotation. So I think he is a sneaky guy here at 4,400 because he is the clear backup right now, but there's a chance he kind of works it into a different rotation altogether. We just don't know yet what's going to kind of come of that, and a lot of people were expecting it to be Marshawn Lloyd, so they might be a little slower to catch on to Wilson. All right, we got the Steelers going to Indianapolis. They're 3-0 and they're favored yet again. I should probably tell you more about the Colts than the Steelers, but what are you liking this one?
Yeah, I like Cordell Patterson at 4,300 because Najee Harris and Jalen Warren picked up injuries last week. It sounds like Najee's going to play through his right arm injury. I mean, he's probably the toughest back in the league. Never missed a game, so I'm not shocked he's going to play through what's probably a pretty bad injury. But Mike Tomlin wasn't as optimistic with Jalen Warren, so we could see Patterson essentially take over the Jalen Warren role. And he probably still has some pop at 40, my age.
Enough to play receiver, because he was playing receiver too.
Yeah. So, I mean, they could move around. And, this Colts defense is suspect. It's indoors. So I like taking a flyer on Patterson, even obviously if Najee's active. But if Warren's out, I think Patterson's certainly worth a flyer. Could have a big game here.
Yeah, the fact that we just talked about the Packers makes me think back to Ty Montgomery. Remember him when he was I think he was only a wide receiver, and then all of a sudden he turned into a running back, but then he was still a wide receiver sometimes. And it worked out for a few weeks there in fantasy. It was a little stretch. Yep. All right. All right, let's go to the Patriots Niners biggest spread of the week at 10. I think I saw a 9.5 somewhere as well, but I'm going with Demario Douglas in this one. 4,500, 78% route participation in his last game, and Hunter Henry is the guy I thought about, and I'm sure he's definitely in consideration. But when it comes to the Niners, I know they are banged up, but they tend to defend tight ends well. This year, it's been no different. They really haven't given up much of anything to the position, but wide receiver is where they have struggled. So I like Douglas, and even a Jalen Polk kind of dart throw I think makes sense as well. Didn't work out, I think it was last week, but he's a guy who already has a touchdown catch. They spent 37th pick on him, and Douglas had a high volume game last time out, so that might draw more defensive attention, get Polk some more one-on-one matchups. So I like him as well, but Douglas is a better bet for full PPR volume, DraftKings, things like that. But I do think Polk has the higher ceiling ultimately, just because of his average depth of target and his red zone usage.
Yeah, Douglas certainly had like the squeaky wheel treatment last week. They were even mentioning that we want to give him the ball, but It's not really Polk's fault. I mean, they're just watching Jacoby Brissett get sacked every other play. So, or when they're not running the ball. So it's been unfortunate, but Polk's a guy that I could see pop if the offensive line starts getting better protection or Drake May comes in and looks good. But yeah, I'm down to just keep investing in Polk in spots until he does have a blowout game, because I think it is coming.
Yeah, and it's sneaky too. He's not one of those guys that's like a buzz. He wasn't a buzzy, like Xavier Worthy type of guy to where his rostership is going to be particularly high at all. All right, next up, the Cardinals Commanders, right? Yeah, Cardinals Commanders, and this one looks like it's going to close with the highest total of the week. It hit 50 and surpassed it. It's kind of been floating around there. Who are you liking this one?
I love Greg Dortch at 4,300, especially on a full PPR site like DraftKings. Even if Trey McBride plays, he's probably worth this price tag, to be honest. But if McBride misses time, I think people are going to gravitate towards Elijah Higgins as a cheap flyer, which they should. He's going to pick up a ton of the leftover routes run. But I think Dortch is going to pick up a lot of targets. And he's already averaging just under 4 catches a game, so he could easily catch 6 or more balls here. And they're facing a Commanders defense. They can't really stop anybody through the air. And we know the Commanders offense will put up points. So this could be a shootout, a great game to stack. And I think Dortch would be a critical part of game stacks for me here.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that, like you said, he has that 5-6 catch game in his range of outcomes. He gets enough snaps, and he rides off the field. That just changes the whole target distribution and puts him one rung higher, which is a positive. All right, Chiefs, Chargers, ugly. Total is under 40. The spread is 7 for the Chiefs, 7.5 for the Chiefs on the road. I've seen it hit 8 and higher at some spots as well. I'm going to go ugly with Juju Smith-Schuster in this spot. I didn't know if it was just kind of a 1 week aberration when he got a red zone target in week 1 and he played, I think it was like 20-25% of the snaps, but he's actually been growing on that snap rate since then. And now, he was up to over 50%. He ran more routes than Justin Watson, who's usually the third receiver for the team last week. And it could be just a function of, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Patrick Mahomes is just, taking what the defense gives him more than ever. That was the initial narrative when people first went to the cover 2 against him. Now the whole league is doing it against everybody. But the Chiefs are, near the bottom of the league in intended air yards. And that helps a guy like Juju over a guy like Watson, who is more like your MVS mold, where he's going to stretch the field, might not get too much separation, but just him being down there is going to kind of give you some options. Well, I guess that's not really something they need in this offense, or that they feel they need, because they've been going with a lot more Smith-Schuster. He played over half of the total snaps in the game, not just pass snaps. So I think his usage actually might be here to stay, at least for now, which is something I did not have on my bingo card coming into the season, with that glut of guys like Tony and Mecole Hardman and Juju. I didn't think Juju was going to end up with a 50+ snap rate at some point, but here we are.
I'm surprised he didn't use Travis Kelce as a dart throw.
Oh man, not yet. You got it. Probably has to have another primetime game.
Spend up to be contrarian, yeah.
Right, yeah. I mean, spend up and catch a football, Travis. Speaking of disgusting, Browns.
Love it.
Raiders. It's in Vegas. At least it won't be windy, but the total is 37. It's been hovering around a pick either way. I don't think anyone knows what to do with this game. They just know the quarterbacks aren't great. But with that said, who do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Trey Tucker here at 3,600. He's coming off a 7-catch, 96-yard touchdown game. Might be a bit chalky, just considering he's so cheap. But, people might shy away because it is against the Browns. It has a low total. But, ever since last year, the Browns defense has been, much better at home. So maybe on the road, this is a spot the Raiders could put up some points. And Antonio Pierce was saying something about players making business decisions, something like that. I don't know who he's talking about, but it could be like Devontae. I don't know. Things are going awry. Like, I don't know what's going on, but we could see Aiden O'Connell under center this game, which I would love for my Gardner Minshew season-long bet, but also for Trey Tucker. Like, ever since last year, like through preseason last year, through preseason this year, like Aiden O'Connell and Trey Tucker have a special connection, and that random 60-point game on Thursday football,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
where the total was like 30. Trey Tucker had 2 touchdowns from Aiden O'Connell. So anytime Aiden O'Connell's under center, I love Trey Tucker even more. And I thought the Raiders would use a lot more 2 tight end personnel this year with, Bowers and Mayer there, but they haven't, probably because they've been in so many trailing game scripts. So Tucker's been out there around 85% of dropbacks. So I'm very high on Trey Tucker this week. I just hope his rostership isn't that high because of his good game last week, but I think he keeps rolling here, especially if AOC's under center here.
Yeah, it looks like Minshew's going to start the game, but the fact that I believe they worded it like that, like he's going to start, and that's it.
Go from there.
I don't know. I might be reading too much into it, but sounds like he's going to be on another short leash. And I agree. I think Tucker plays a lot better with O'Connell for whatever reason, and he's got some talent. He's got some juice.
Yeah.
So
was he like a second rounder?
Third, I think. Third rounder.
Oh, third. Yeah. Third rounder.
But talented guy, just hasn't really gotten the opportunity yet. But like you said, in that 60-point game, when he has, it's looked good. So, you got Devontae, you got Bowers, you got Myers. You'd never expect it to be Tucker, but he's out there running not just the same exact amount of routes, but pretty close. Like kind of like a Ray McLeod, where he'll have games where he gets to 90% plus.
If Devontae does get traded in season, where do you hope he goes for both his value and like the team he goes to?
The Jets. Gotta be the Jets, because you gotta have. You want to see how it works with Devontae and Garrett Wilson, because Rodgers really has never had that. He's made other guys like high target guys like Allen Lazard and whatnot, but he's never really had the. Oh, actually, no, I'm lying. He had I guess he had Jordy and Devontae when they were both peak level for a while, and Jennings, but it's been a while since.
I can't believe I didn't think of that. They got to win now, so that would make a ton of sense. Hopefully, they make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if it's Deshaun Watson just playing against the Browns defense all day, or they just can't properly evaluate him. But sometimes he looks like the worst quarterback in the league, bar none. I mean, because Bryce Young's bench now, so yeah.
I was gonna say now it's official.
not worse than Bryce, but
no debate right now.
Yeah, he just makes them.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence might be in the discussion soon, but
with him though, it's just more subtle, right? It's just kind of you're like, I think he's pretty good, and then you look away from the TV for a couple plays. You look back, and the Jaguars still have no points, and they're just kind of sputtering around the field.
Just throw it to Brian Thomas Jr., please. Just do that.
Yeah, it's been rough though. It's always kind of a talking point with Trevor how he never quite plays up to the talent level, and I've seen some numbers that have led me to believe at least that he would regress positively this season, just in terms of he had a ton of yardage dropped, a ton of expected production EPA lost due to things out of his control. But I guess he's also getting paid all that money to be in control sometimes and control what he can control, and it's not looking good. But we digress.